That night will be remembered as the moment when fiction blurred into reality, when love that had once been confined to a television screen stepped boldly into the real world. As Weibo burned with excitement, fans couldn't tear their eyes away from their phones. Every minute brought a new wave of disbelief and admiration, every post from Soo Kai's followers filled with screenshots, fan edits, and trembling captions like, "Is this really happening?" and "He finally said it." It wasn't just a confession, it was catharsis. For years, audiences had watched the chemistry between Soo Kai and Tan Songyun unfold in You Are More Beautiful Than the Starlight, a drama that had become an emblem of slow-burning romance, where every subtle gesture carried meaning. And tonight, that same tenderness that had captivated viewers on screen broke through the boundary of performance, proving that some emotions are too powerful to be contained by scripts or stage lights. Industry insiders immediately began dissecting the event. Entertainment journalists rushed to confirm if Soo Kai's words were genuine, some claiming it might have been an elaborate publicity stunt for an upcoming project. But their theories dissolved as the hours passed and no agency statements were released, no product endorsements announced. Silence from both sides only deepened the mystery, and in that silence, people found authenticity. Soo Kai had nothing to gain by making such a confession. In fact, it risked alienating certain fans who preferred their idols single and unattached. But he didn't seem to care. Those 10 words were not for profit or promotion, they were for her. The timing was equally poetic. October, a month when autumn leaves fall and the air begins to cool, seemed symbolic of change, a shedding of pretenses, and a return to something pure. Fans noticed that Tan Songyun had been unusually quiet online that week, leading some to speculate she might have been preparing for this moment too. When her reply finally came, 4 simple words, "I understand you," the emotional equilibrium between them was undeniable. It wasn't a yes or no, it was deeper, more intimate. "I understand you" meant she had known all along, that his heart had spoken to hers in silence long before words made it public. It was a dialogue of souls, not publicity. Commentators from major outlets called it the confession of the decade, while psychologists and media analysts noted how the public's overwhelming response reflected a deep yearning for sincerity in modern celebrity culture. People are starved for authenticity, they said, and Soo Kai's confession filled that void like rain on parched soil. Every generation has its love story that defines an era, and for millions of Chinese fans, this was theirs. As netizens replayed old clips from interviews and behind-the-scenes footage, the pieces started to fit together. The way Soo Kai would instinctively adjust the mic for Tan Songyun, how he always stood a step behind her in group photos to make her the visual center, how his laughter came more easily when she was near, these weren't just coincidences. They were quiet acts of devotion, now illuminated by truth. During a previous award ceremony, when Tan Songyun was called to the stage, cameras had caught Soo Kai clapping with an intensity far greater than anyone else in the crowd. That footage, once dismissed as ordinary courtesy, was suddenly being reinterpreted as love hidden in plain sight. The public began sharing such clips, turning each into a digital love letter to authenticity. In an industry often accused of being hollow, this confession reignited collective faith that love, when real, can still survive under the brightest spotlight. Meanwhile, brands and producers scrambled to adjust their strategies. Variety shows that had once avoided pairing the two for fear of fueling rumors were now competing to book them together. Yet both actors remained reserved, neither confirming nor denying further details. Their quietness only added to the charm. It wasn't about capitalizing on the moment, but about preserving its sincerity. Fans respected that. The more they stayed silent, the louder the public's respect grew. Hashtags like #TrueLoveStillExists and #SooKaiTanSongyunForever began trending not just in China, but across Southeast Asia. Vietnamese, Korean, and Thai fan communities translated their posts, spreading the love story across borders. Global fandoms declared it a once-in-a-generation moment where 2 stars transcended the machinery of fame. Among the countless reactions, one stood out. A fan wrote, "Maybe what we love isn't just them. It's the way they make us believe again." That comment was reposted over 100,000 times, resonating with people who saw in Soo-kai and Tan Songyun's courage a mirror of their own longing to love freely, honestly, and without fear of judgment. The confession also sparked conversations about vulnerability among celebrities. A well-known actor commented on Weibo, "We all wear masks in this industry. What Soo-kai did tonight took more bravery than any role I've ever played." That sentiment echoed throughout the night. It wasn't just a romantic declaration, it was a rebellion against pretense. It was proof that sincerity, no matter how risky, could still captivate hearts more powerfully than any manufactured narrative. And somewhere in all this noise, fans began to look back at Soo-kai's past interviews through a new lens. There was one moment, years ago, when he was asked what kind of girl he liked. He had smiled, thought for a second, and said softly, "Someone who makes me calm just by being there." At the time, no one had suspected anything, but now that sentence had found its context. Tan Songyun, known for her gentle and composed presence, fit that description perfectly. As fans connected the dots, emotions ran high. Many admitted they cried, not because they were jealous, but because it was rare to see two people love so quietly and yet so powerfully in an age obsessed with noise. Social media became a river of poetry, with fans writing lines like, "He said I love you to the world, and she replied I understand you to eternity." The poetic symmetry of it all, the courage, the restraint, the emotional timing, felt cinematic. And yet, the beauty of it lay precisely in its unscripted nature. The entertainment industry is filled with orchestrated romances, fake breakups, and promotional relationships designed to fuel headlines. But this was something else. It was the sound of truth echoing through a world that had forgotten what it sounded like. Even older generations, often critical of celebrity culture, were touched. Parents who had once dismissed their children's fandom obsessions found themselves quietly moved by Soo-kai's words. "He reminded me of how I confessed to your mother," one father reportedly told his daughter after watching the viral clip. Sometimes, love is just about saying it before it's too late. That, perhaps, was the secret of why this confession struck such a universal chord. It wasn't just about two celebrities. It was about every unspoken love, every mischance, every person who had once chosen silence out of fear. Soo-kai's courage became a beacon, telling people it's never too late to speak your truth. On the other hand, the academic world also took note. University professors teaching communication and media began referencing the event as an example of emotional authenticity in digital culture. One paper argued that Soo-kai's confession redefined parasocial relationships, blurring the line between performance and reality. It wasn't just fans consuming a story, it was fans participating in a collective emotional awakening. The next morning, while paparazzi rushed to track the couple's every move, Soo-kai was seen leaving his apartment, wearing simple clothes, smiling faintly but looking content. Tan Songyun was later photographed at a cafe with friends, her expression serene, her laughter unguarded. Neither hid from the cameras, but neither courted them either. That effortless calm spoke volumes. They weren't running from love or fame, they were simply living it. Some might say that was the most romantic part of all. As days turned into weeks, the initial frenzy evolved into admiration. Talk shows analyzed their compatibility, fan clubs organized art projects, and countless letters poured into their agencies. Some fans even sent handwritten notes, saying how the confession helped them find courage to tell their own loved ones how they felt. That ripple effect, how one act of honesty could inspire millions, became a story in itself. The confession had become bigger than Soo-kai or Tan Songyun. It had become a cultural symbol of emotional truth. But of course, fame brings scrutiny. Tabloids tried to stir rumors, speculating about marriage, hidden breakups, or PR motives. Each time, fans rose in defense, reminding the media that some things don't need dissection. Let them breathe, they said. Let love be love. That collective protectiveness from the public was unusual in the entertainment industry. It showed that people weren't just fans, they were believers, protecting something sacred. And indeed, in a world of cynicism, their confession had created a rare space for tenderness. The beauty of Soo Kai and Tan Songyun's story lies not in its perfection, but in its imperfection, the quiet pauses, the risk, the humanity. They didn't promise forever. They didn't stage a grand event. They simply acknowledged what was already there, two hearts that had long since recognized each other. And perhaps that's why people can't stop talking about it. Because deep down, everyone longs for a love that doesn't need to shout, a love that just exists. As 2025 moves forward, their story remains one of the most defining cultural moments of the year. Not because of fame or glamour, but because it reawakens something long forgotten, the belief that love, when true, doesn't need permission. Soo Kai and Tan Songyun didn't just confess to each other, they confessed to the world that sincerity still matters. That even in an age of fleeting attention spans, something real can still hold people captive. Their story will likely be studied, retold, and romanticized for years, but those who witnessed it live will remember the feeling, the rush, the warmth, the disbelief that turned into joy. They will remember how one night in October made them stop scrolling and start believing again. And maybe that's what real magic looks like. A confession that turns into a cultural heartbeat. A story that reminds us that no matter how the world changes, love remains the one language everyone still understands. To all those who have followed this journey, who felt the tremor of that moment deep inside, who smiled through tears as the screen lit up with their words, thank you for being part of this miracle. Your faith in love keeps stories like this alive. If this story moved you, if it made you believe again in sincerity, kindness, and the courage to speak your heart, then take a moment to share your feelings in the comments below. What does true love mean to you? And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to 24H News, TM, where we continue to bring you the most heart-stirring, thought-provoking stories from around the world. Because somewhere out there, beyond the cameras and headlines, someone is still brave enough to say, I love you, and another is ready to whisper back, I understand you.